Imagine a facility where guards beat individuals for small infractions, ridicule them, throw them in solitary confinement for speaking out about abuses, and deprive them of medical care. Where this year alone, at least 22 people have died, largely due to treatable disease, illness, or suicide. Where children are forced to live in squalid conditions and people who have never committed a single crime worry if they'll ever see their families again. These conditions would be unacceptable anywhere, including in any U.S. prison. And yet they are the conditions that thousands of people are facing every day in our nation's immigration detention centers. Instead of addressing this horrific situation, Republicans in Congress have encouraged it by providing over $110 billion to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Acting with impunity, the Trump administration has gutted oversight of immigration detention facilities by dismantling the Department of Homeland Security offices that conducted this critical work. DHS has forced members of Congress to file lawsuits to gain access to these facilities. And still, the administration tries to limit oversight, including what members and staff can see and whom they can speak to. So what is the Trump administration trying to hide? Over the past 2 years, I asked my staff to investigate. They visited facilities in Florida, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. What they found should shock every American. At the Dilley facility, my staff observed children languishing in family detention. They were despondent, sharing that they missed their friends and sharing that they missed school and felt trapped. The families did not receive timely medical care. Some had month-long waits to see a doctor. These issues were not specific to Dilley. At every facility, detained individuals reported that they did not receive adequate treatment, including for chronic conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes. Timely, appropriate medical care is often the difference between a manageable illness and a medical emergency. So it's no surprise that studies have linked poor medical care directly to death in detention. We are seeing the devastating effects of these conditions every day. In just 16 months, more than 50 people have died in immigration detention under the Trump administration. That's more than double the number of people who died in all 4 years under the previous administration. How is this even possible? ICE and its contractors are clearly not using their significant billions of dollars in resources to provide adequate medical care or improve conditions. So how is this money being spent? Let me give you one example. Camp East Montana, a $1.3 billion facility in Fort Bliss, Texas. The Department of Homeland Security rushed to open the facility, violating ICE's own policy by skipping a required safety inspection. ICE spent millions of taxpayers' dollars on contracts for meals and services for individuals who were not yet detained. Yet the facility did not spend the money to develop space for attorney or family visitors. All of this is even more heartbreaking when we consider whom this administration is putting in detention. To meet Stephen Miller's arbitrary arrest quotas, federal agents are arresting and detaining members of communities who have lived in the United States for decades, who have no criminal history, and who have U.S. citizen spouses, children, and parents. One of our guests today, Mr. Hernandez Navarrete, excuse me if I mispronounce your name. He was attending high school in Chicago, doing everything right. He was arrested at his routine check-in and placed in detention. This administration has one goal: make conditions in detention so terrible and so notorious that immigrants will choose to leave, no matter what their legal status might be, what their contributions to our society happen to be and the cost to our nation. I have spent more than 4 decades in Congress fighting for a fairer and more humane immigration system. As a son of an immigrant myself, I've been profoundly disturbed by Republicans' fast acceptance of President Trump's approach, in which cruelty is the key point. There is nowhere this is more apparent than inside America's immigration detention facilities, where human beings are wrongly isolated, mistreated, and dying preventable deaths. I look forward to hearing from today's witnesses who bring the medical, legal, and firsthand experience necessary to understand this current detention system, and I'm grateful for their voice in the fight. I'm going to introduce the witnesses. Today we have 4. Our first witness, Ricardo Hernandez Navarrete. Ricardo is a college student at Truman College in Chicago, where he's a standout soccer player. He was attending Chicago Public Schools when he and his mother were arrested at a routine immigration check-in. He was released just 2 days before his high school graduation. He spent 2 months in ICE detention, during which he experienced harsh conditions and was separated from his mother. Thank you, sir, for being here today. Our next witness is Michelle Heisler, the medical director at Physicians for Human Rights and professor of internal medicine and public health at the University of Michigan. She's led multiple investigations into the quality of medical care and conditions in ICE detention centers and the health impacts of our current immigration policy. Thanks for your research, and thank you for joining us. Our third witness is Michelle Brane. Did I pronounce that? Is that close? Michelle is a fellow at Cornell Law School and an executive director of Together and Free, a nonprofit that provides support services to migrant families. Ms. Brane previously served as Office of Immigration Detention Oversight Ombudsman and will speak to the dismantling of detention oversight and changes to detention. Our final witness is Jennifer Bowie. Am I right? Bubahi, it says right here. Associate Director of the National Immigrant Justice Center's Adult Detention Project. She has observed firsthand the impact of Trump administration interpretation of mandatory detention laws and the current legal landscape. She formerly represented detained clients in Texas and now represents detained Chicagoland clients. Before we turn to our witnesses, let me briefly lay out the mechanics for the rest of the forum. Each witness will have 5 minutes to provide opening statements, then a round of question where each senator has 5 minutes, and I'll ask them to stay as close as they can to their allotted times. Mr. Hernandez Navarrete, you may proceed with your opening statement.